Good afternoon, Mr. Roberts. You have asked me to determine whether renovating the golf maintenance area into a wedding venue called the Hideaway is a wise capital investment for Stone Rock Golf and Country Club, which from this point on in the presentation I'll simply refer to as SRGCC. You've asked me to do this so that you may develop a strong business plan to present to your banker and the SRGCC Board of Directors, provided that this ends up being a sound financial investment. Before we dive into analysis of the investment decision criteria, and I provide my recommendation, I'd like to provide background on the golf industry as well as SRGCC. Prior to 2015, there was a decade-long recession in the Canadian golf sector. However, SRGCC managed to rebound, increasing revenues in 2015 and 2016 through a focus on special events, which included renovations to the banquet hall, kitchen, and washrooms, as well as an additional bridal suite and on-site ceremony location. The 2015 and 2016 wedding seasons were marked by a demand increase for rustic, minimalistic weddings. The maintenance area you have identified for the Hideaway as a revenue stream opportunity already possesses this natural rustic look, and yours and Miss Kelly's vision showcases its immense potential as a venue. That being said, significant costs are present to execute this proposed conversion, which I will review in more detail shortly. As you know, 4 fiscally conservative families comprise SRGCC's board of directors. Until the end of 2014, the board was concerned about potential long-term negative effects of focusing on special events rather than the golf business. They've been in the golf industry for more than 30 years now, which is why that still primarily remains their passion. And as a supplementary piece of context real quick, here's a recent financial timeline for SRGCC. As previously mentioned, in the spring of 2014, we obtained renovation financing to expand wedding and special event services. The end of 2014 presented a loss of $60,000 as a result of the golf industry's continued decline at that time, which forced the board to lean into the special event side of the business even more. Through yours and Miss Kelly's leadership, this was a tremendous success, with revenues of a little over $1 million. In 2016, this side of the business continued to grow. Notably, there was a 30% revenue increase, resulting in a total of $1.4 million. So in my opinion, there is an evident answer to this decision case with 2 alternatives to consider. Your options are to continue operations as is, with no expansion of services and no rustic wedding venue at this time. You can renovate the Hideaway, but choose not to winterize it due to the additional expenses that would be incurred, the fact that fall and winter do not fall into the prime wedding season, and the fact that labor may be difficult to come by. Then lastly, your third option is that you can renovate and winterize the Hideaway, which potentially would offer increased flexibility and revenue during what you believe would be slower seasons. For my broader business analysis, I decided to analyze the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats regarding this potential capital venture. Regarding the strengths, SRGCC is a gorgeous property and a valued community asset. Our business is trending upward in profitability, and ample space is available for expansion. The revenue growth has allowed SRGCC to fuel pristine golf course maintenance, which has resulted in notable increases in game packs, private tournaments with golf and meal packages, green fees, junior golf, and golf lessons. On the flip side, starting out with the weaknesses, golf memberships were stagnant in 2015 and 2016. The current revenue stream from special events is also seasonal. Prime dates for these special events are limited under the current model, and the on-site barn used for a variety of storage is past its useful life and needs to be replaced. Moving into the opportunities, the golf maintenance space would serve as the perfect rustic special event space, which, as mentioned before, aligns with current wedding venue trends. Land is available for new buildings and parking lots. Winterizing the Hideaway provides an opportunity for increased revenue during a time where golf would be the only revenue source otherwise. More to come on that last opportunity. And then finally, taking a look at the threats, SRGCC is located in a small town of only 7,500 residents. Despite recent success, the golf industry as a whole will most likely continue to decline. And even if the board agrees to the business venture, the bank may not agree to finance it. As a worthy concern you pointed out, Mr. Roberts, there is also the potential lack of labor availability in the off-season should SRGCC decide to winterize the Hideaway. Before I share my conclusions and make a formal recommendation, let's briefly review the costs associated with this expenditure and analyze the investment decision criteria. The costs for this include renovations, kitchen equipment, 100 new parking spots, since we are maxed out with our current parking, the new maintenance facility to replace the barn, and various professional fees. These costs total a little over $1 million. There's also the potential annual expense of $18,000 should you choose to winterize the hideaway. And then lastly, SRGCC's cost of capital has been running at 8%. All of these costs will be reflected in the upcoming investment decision criteria calculations. Projected revenue. In 2017, 15 Saturday weddings, 3 weekday weddings, additional rental income, and new facility savings of $55,000 are expected. And those new facility savings should increase by 2% each year. That increase is reflected annually in the forecast here. Each year, the expected Saturday weddings and weekday weddings increase by 3 and 2 weddings, respectively. Also, the amount charged for weddings will annually go up by 2%. Please review my attached Excel file for any specific questions regarding the calculations. To produce investment decision criteria to evaluate, I calculated the payback period, the net present value, the internal rate of return, the modified internal rate of return, and the profitability index, both for a non-winterized hideaway and a winterized hideaway, not factoring in any additional off-season weddings. And as we review the investment decision criteria, you can see that the payback periods are not too bad. However, the NPVs in both cases are negative. The rates of return fall below the cost of capital, and the PI values are less than 1. If you stop at these numbers, the hideaway does not appear to be a strong investment. However, in my view, these calculations represent a worst-case scenario. You mentioned, Mr. Roberts, that you were interested in seeing what the numbers look like if you were to make the hideaway available during the wedding off-season at a 25% discounted rate. I incorporated that discount and factored in 8 additional off-season Saturday weddings, accounting for the fact that you don't anticipate any weekday special events. Your guess, in my opinion, is an unfounded one, as according to a recent study by TheKnot.com, 1 in 5 weddings have taken place on a weekday for the past several years. But for now, let's lean into your guess and play devil's advocate. According to Rocky Mountain Weddings, mid-June to mid-September is considered prime wedding season in Canada, leaving more than 8 months out of the year to comprise the off-season due to cold weather. So as a result, I made an extremely conservative estimate that SRGCC will host 1 Saturday special event per month during the off-season, and I accounted for the 2% annual price increase. Even with this conservative of an estimate that factors in a 25% discount from the prime season, the payback period decreases, rates of return rise above the cost of capital, and the NPV increases drastically and even becomes quite positive. According to the publication Brides, engaged couples should not expect a drastic discount from wedding venues during the off-season. Personally, I would consider 25% a drastic discount. SRGCC could consider only discounting the prices by 10% for an even greater increase in revenue. An optimistic alternative, considering the current popularity of rustic late, fall, and winter weddings, is that you may be drastically underestimating the demand of such off-season dates. Imagine what that demand would do for your revenue if the prices were not discounted at all during the off-season. In conclusion, the investment decision criteria indicate that investing in the hideaway during the prime wedding season without winterizing would not be a sound financial decision for SRGCC. And obviously, adding annual $18,000 winterizing expenses without factoring in any additional special events and revenue produce even less favorable figures. While my best case scenario forecast is merely a prediction, it is an evidence-based estimation, and a very conservative one at that. And despite its conservative nature, it still reduces the payback period to roughly 2.5 years and produces an NPV of nearly $50,000. I advise starting with a venue price discount of less than 25%, as it will be far more difficult to raise prices if the demand is greater than expected than it will be to introduce progressive discounts if the demand falls as you currently expect it to. And, as evidence, this venture should still be profitable if you end up discounting at 25%. Yours and Miss Kelly's innovative mindset has not failed you thus far. I recommend you lean into it and encourage the board and the bank to leap headfirst into what shall be a successful capital investment. Thanks for your time.